for those who feel stuck in life, right? What is quantum jumping?
It's basically an idea that we can access other possible realities working with our own consciousness, recognizing that going forward through imagination, we can pretty much jump from one timeline to another. So your memory might be very different than what the history will show you that it's been. That's the evidence that you'll get that you're on a completely different timeline.
Wow. And what are some case studies you've seen where people use quantum jumping to achieve greater wealth or greater happiness by moving to a timeline that has those?
Well, I've worked with people who have changed their health situations, just actually literally jumping in an elevator, going up to see the doctor for an appointment to make sure that the cancer is gone that they had been hoping to clear and been doing some things that hopefully would clear it. And absolutely, they noticed just jumping in the elevator. By the time they arrived at the appointment, the cancer was gone for that gentleman who'd been given a cancer diagnosis. That's one, and he was really excited about that. Other times, people usually are able to jump to a reality that seems accessible. So, to the degree that we're believing that things are possible, that's the key. And so, obviously, it helps if you can listen to a show like what we're doing right now, or listen to these kinds of conversations, and just start opening the mindset, opening to the idea that such a thing could be possible. Because I myself have experienced just having a quantum jump where I'm in a reality where my bank account balance is better than it was before, like quite a bit better, noticeably better, sometimes exactly the amount of money better. Like if I needed $1,000 for a vacation, and the next thing I knew, I'd looked in the bank balance and it was definitely $1,000 more than it had been, and there was no evidence that anything had come in. So that kind of thing happens quite often. And it's simply a matter of knowing that these alternate possible realities exist and knowing that in order to be on that other timeline, it's important to be aligned with that reality. That means living up to that, whatever it is that you are there. If you're wealthier, then be in a mindset where you are living true to having a better relationship with money, for example. Feeling better aligned with just being open to possibilities as they come in rather than ignoring them. Um, Perhaps being more frugal, more practical a little bit, that could help. But literally, you can just experience money arriving directly either into your wallet or your bank account. And that may sound incredible, but I've been documenting this for 25 years with firsthand reports from people that have experienced it. And I do have a book specifically about this high energy money, and it shares ideas. So if some people, according to their personality, they might believe they have to earn the money, they have to work for it and do something, and that's fine. So if you're one of those people and you believe that, then go ahead and do those things that you know are going to bring the money in. It sounds so easy, but just talk to some people. Some people believe through investments, that's how it happens. Great, then pay attention. What are the good investments right now? Pay attention to, they've got some electronically traded funds. ETFs are out right now for Bitcoin and gold. So if you're concerned about currencies, you can go into those areas. So stuff like that is mind blowing when you realize that you might be operating with some blockages to these kinds of alternate possible realities. So, in addition to opening your mind to the idea that these other realities of other possible versions of you exist, you want to make sure that you clear resistances that you might have to embodying who you are in that prosperous reality.
Clearing resistance is such a big thing. It was such a fundamental thing for myself. I always believed that you had to work to get somewhere. But I had a concept recently that shifted my mindset was be, do, have, right?
Yeah.
You can shift realities and be the person that has the thing you want. How much does that relate to quantum jumping?
That's perfect. Because when you be, then that's just the beingness of who you are. It's receptivity. Having is also part of the receptivity, but it's more like a completeness of the yin yang together. So the be part is It's the feminine, the receptive, and it may seem like you're not doing anything, you're just being, but there is something happening there in that receptivity. It's the awareness that that's the birthplace of all that is. It's kind of the stillness that's there is an ultimate safety place. It feels phenomenal. It feels like it's just brimming with possibility. So that being is like the birthplace of the imagination, and it's extraordinary. Doing is the yang. It's the getting out there and making things happen. And so that would usually be a good accompaniment once you've established who you are and just allowing yourself to be who you are, like honoring that. So are you an investor? Are you a worker? Are you a magical person? Knowing like, oh, this is who I am. So I'll claim that fully. I'll live in that. I'll embody that fully. And then the more you do that, then yes, you can start acting that way, speaking that way, doing things that way. And then finally, yes, you do have that. That's very analogous to the quantum jumping process. Just imagining it and then just raising the energy and acting as if you've got that and then just walking right into that reality. Absolutely.
Mm. There's a concept you frequently talk about aligning your gut with your heart and your mind, right? And I guess this alignment facilitates the quantum jumping process.
It does.
Um, yeah.
Yeah, it keeps the energy flowing. Like I said, sometimes the energy can get blocked or shut down slightly, but when you're all of one accord, and so the neurons in the brain are matching what's in the neurons in the heart, matching the neurons in the gut, then you've just got one beautiful all systems go. It's like having everything lined up in a rocket launch instead of it going terribly wrong. We don't want it going terribly wrong. You want you want what you're imagining to line up with what you love, to line up with what you need. So when those line up and what you want is what you need and it's what you love, that's perfect. We know that intrinsically. We have that inner knowingness of this fact. But it's another thing sometimes to live that way ourselves. And the only reason for that is that we sometimes inadvertently, unintentionally incorporate other people's ideas of what we should be doing, who we should be, how we should act. And if you start living more true to who you really are, that's when this lineup with head, heart, and gut work much better when you're not trying to pretend to be something that you're not.
Mm. And how does that alignment facilitate the quantum jumping process?
Yes, it facilitates it by providing access to the energy that's required, because it does take energy to to be able to move from one possible reality to another, and it's the consciousness that's making the jump. So the consciousness, you as a conscious sentient being, need to have the energy required to, first of all, know that you need to make that jump. And a lot of people, when they're in life and death situations, experience those are the most miraculous quantum jumps where literally they'll notice that they've been thrown to safety, or it seems like they teleported to safety, or like they went right through an oncoming vehicle and now they're on the other side. It's impossible things happen that we would do see in quantum physics, actually, at the quantum level. But usually we don't expect to see it in a car or a person. Um, so when you need that thing to happen, and that would be an example of I need to be safe. I need to live. I need to make it through to the other side. And then the next thing they know, they're on the other side of that oncoming vehicle. So the need is very important. Love, if you love your life and you love just what you're doing and you want to make it through to where you're going, then you can do that. And then the visualization just it may not be logical. Just realizing I need to be on the other side of this oncoming vehicle and to feel like it's possible. I've seen it in cartoons, then boom, it happens. And I don't think that much thought is given in the numerous examples where I've heard people talking about this, where they personally experienced it. And I never would have thought this would be a common experience. So I'm describing something that I've learned from giving talks is a lot more common than I ever thought. It's remarkably much. I mean, it's not like every single person has this happen, but when I would give a talk to 100 people, there'd be like 5 people that would have had that happen. 5 out of 100, that's kind of sizable. That's like 5%. That's huge.
I read a book recently that touched on the point you just brought up. It's called Reality Transurfing.
Yes.
And that book just was a mind boggling, mind boggling concepts, right? The fact that by intention you can manifest, by you can shift universes and realities, and that you can have a completely different life just by changing intention. So, what? How can you relate to that?
Yeah, it's easier than we think. Let me tell you a bit of a story. When I was in high school, I was taking an after-school program class. It was transactional analysis. It was fun. And each time after school, we'd get an assignment. So I walked in a bit late. I thought the students had already started the exercise. I saw the instruction in front of me on the desk. I read the instruction. It said, behave completely differently. Talk differently. If you're usually very quiet, then interrupt everything that other people are saying. And I thought, "Oh, okay, I'm very quiet, so obviously I'll be the one interrupting everything," so I just dove into this. I thought they were doing this. So I started right in with that. The funny part, and the reason I'm laughing is, after several minutes of this, then the instructor said, "Well, everyone's here now. Let's go ahead and get started. We've got the sheets in front of you." And I thought, "Are you kidding me?" No one noticed that I'm completely different. I mean, I was noticing it big time because it's me. And that was, a huge aha moment that simply by changing who we are, other people are probably not even gonna be noticing necessarily. They'll just go with it. So, if I'm cutting in and being really rude and interrupting, they'll just keep rolling with it, and I was really surprised. It was stunning. I didn't say anything about that, but it was, extraordinary. Anyway, in real life, I want people to understand that you might feel at first like I'm gonna mess everything up, I'll ruin my relationships, everything'll change for the worse. Well, things are gonna change anyway, number 1. Number 2, people if you're making a change that's aligned with your heart and your head and your gut and you're becoming more yourself, that's a good thing. And probably it won't be as bad as interrupting everybody and being intentionally rude, so it's gotta be better than that, and, people will just roll with it, and you'll get to see firsthand what happens when you break the cycles of your patterns. That's really what you wanna do. You wanna change the way you look, change the way you talk, be in alignment with this. Right now, it's an imagined reality path that's just adjacent to this one, but you can get there with the energy that comes, the excitement that happens when you realize, "I'm on this other timeline, I'm in that reality." And you can draw strength from it. If you feel like you're getting stronger and more energized, then you made a good choice. S- And, and if you feel like I'm losing energy, it's not working, well, that's feedback. So don't panic. You've learned that's probably not your correct timeline yet, but don't give up. Just realize you can learn from that one.
I was literally just about to ask you, how do you know if you're on the right or wrong timeline? You just answered spontaneously.
Yeah.
Um, you know, what really fascinated me is the fact that in that book, he said that there's different lifelines, but there's one that's most close to you. Then there's another one that's an upgrade version 2.0, 3.0, and there's a version that's completely different, right? Where you're just say now you were broke, you were stuck, you were in that limiting mindset. There's a version where you are literally wealthy, you're a genius at what you do, you're fulfilled in every sense and every way. And my question is, is there a process to jump from here to here, or do you have to go through it step by step?
Well, for me personally, I find it works. All my timeline jumping happens when I'm lined up with my what I would call my higher self, my eternal infinite spirit, soul, whatever you want to call that, because that's where the interest is. That's the part of who I really am, what I call me, that feels excited talking to you right now. Like I don't mind what time it is, how late it is, or if I even wasn't ready. None of that matters because I
For
love this.
context, it's 12:46 a.m. where Cynthia is.
Right. Yeah, it doesn't matter. I'm just so excited to be talking about this, so happy. So when that kind of energy comes flowing through, then I know I'm on the right track. This is the correct timeline. This is my upgrade one because it's exactly what my high self wants me to be doing. So I get the goosebumps, I get that happy rush of energy, and I just know this is what I'm meant to be doing. This is right. Even and this is the important part. When you first jump to a new timeline, it'll be nerve-wracking because it'll be new. And like the book was saying, it might feel completely foreign, very different. And I would then add, just to be kind to yourself, give yourself time to integrate. Like if you travel to a new country, you need to learn the language, ideally. You need to bring some money. And if you don't have it, you'll need to figure out how to obtain the correct currency. All these things might take time to settle in. So give yourself some leeway, some permission that this may be an adjustment process. Okay, what does that mean? For me, I would need to sleep more. If I'm making a big timeline jump, I'll need to sleep a lot more because it just there's processing that happens on the unconscious level to integrate everything, things we don't even think about. And it's too hard to even explain everything involved when you jump to a new timeline. You totally need more sleep, and you're going to need hydration and, good diet, all that good stuff. And it may feel, um, I don't know how to even say it, and I have no words for it, but it just feels like when you're learning a new language or something and you're in a new culture, it just feels like you're in this weird swirling kind of getting settled. Or if you start a new career and you feel sometimes like, I think I'm in over my head, all of these feelings are normal. So if that's all happening, good. You're on the right track. Don't give up.
Mm. Why did you start what intrigued you specifically about quantum jumping? Because I know you're a physicist and physics is a lot of logic and facts and data, yet quantum jumping is in the metaphysical realm where it's like goes beyond the mind to some extent. And I saw when you were talking about the heart, you had a spark in your eyes.
Yes. Thank you. Yes, well, that's it. It's in my heart. I care deeply about humanity, about this point in our evolution, and personally, I've once ever since I was quite young, I wanted to know the true nature of reality. But the reason for that, the reason I care so much, why bother caring about reality? I care because uh, boy, it's hard to put this to sum it up really succinctly. Essentially, this is such an important time in humanity's evolutionary path. I know I'm here at this time for that reason. That this is like the time to be here on the planet. Obviously, it's a time of great chaos, great difficulty, great challenges. A lot of people are afraid. Things seem like they're breaking apart before they come back together. But all of this is, it's in my heart. I just feel like I need to be here. I need to be part of this, assisting people in making this big jump. And I know intrinsically that as artificial intelligence, it comes up to be our friends, be walking alongside humanity. There's sort of a decision point for humanity at this juncture. Become we can sort of give ourselves away to some of this transhumanism and say, I do not recommend this, by the way, but some people might feel like I'll become slightly computerized and I'll leave the thinking and the smart part of me to the AI. I recommend you do not do that. You do not need to do that because the smart part, the intelligence that we have, the wisdom, the wise humans that we are, Homo sapiens means wise humans, all of this has to do with our spirit, and that's what's truly intelligent, truly wise. So it's not cleverness, and I care so much about this in my heart. I feel like this is why I'm here, this is why it matters, and this is the most important thing that humans can be possibly learning right now, is that we totally can change everything in the physical world. Not only make a jump to another timeline for ourselves, but in so doing, we can be instrumental in changing everything, for the earth, for humanity. And that may sound grandiose, but if you look at the Mandela effect, then you'll notice people are paying attention to usually it may seem like stupid things, you know, like the wording in a movie or a book, like Berenstain Bears or Berenstain Bears, product names and so forth. But what I feel is very significant with the Mandela effect, it's showing us collectively that humans are getting an opportunity to witness our everything changing, everything from our own physiological anatomy of where the heart is located, where our kidneys are located. The kidneys are moving up under the rib cage. They didn't used to be so high up. They used to be more exposed and vulnerable. Our body temperature is changing. So many things are changing. And what I'm proposing for people to contemplate is that we are doing this. We are the world changers that we've been waiting for. We tend to be worried about things going wrong in our personal lives and in the world. Yet we've been given this sort of a divine sovereign capability to transcend any of these circumstances.
Mm. I'm just letting all of that sink in. Since I think that, oof, that's powerful what you just said, because we tend to get so stuck in the victim mentality that my environment is this, I'm feeling at that, and this is not working out the way I expected it to be. Especially control, ego, and control are a huge thing that limits our ability to surrender to the higher self that you talked about, right?
Yes, and we let ourselves believe that what we see in front of us is what's real instead of claiming what quantum physics is starting to show us. This is where the physics comes in. This is why I care about the physics, because if you look at quantum physics, then you can start to see things very differently in a very positive way, where the observer has a great deal of influence on what's being observed. And so when we recognize that we can change the way we observe ourselves, and that we are not just the physicality of ourself, not just the mortal physical body, but instead, what we love about other people and what we love about ourselves is our pure, passionate spirit, the spark of life that we feel. When you feel like, oh, your heart lit up, your eyes lit up, when we see that in each other, this is this is magic is life. It's what we're living for. It's that essence and that spark that matters so much. And that it has never properly been studied in physics. So uh, the closest we come to it is recognizing that different levels of observation can totally change the game. And that was proposed as a thought experiment by this scientist, Eugene Wigner, looking at the Schrodinger's cat experiment, for example, and saying, okay, there's someone observing a cat inside the box. The cat may be alive, may be dead, and we know when you open the box which it is. Um, Eugene Wigner was saying that the observer watching the observer can actually see something different. So the first person opens the box and sees a dead cat, but the other person sees him opening the box, and the cat could be alive. So this gets very interesting because it means that our own levels of conscious agency, like our head, we have levels here: head, heart, and gut. Those are levels of awareness. And like I said, when they're lined up, then it's all systems go and pretty much magical things can happen. You can literally experience you're in another timeline where you've just gone right through an oncoming vehicle. And I'm telling you, a lot of people have experienced that exact thing, which is to me was surprising when I first found that out. Now I'm realizing this is why that we're seeing it now, so that we know more and more of us can talk about this, and we know that we're all capable of literally jumping to another possible reality. In physics, that would be like the many worlds interpretation, the
You know, that
multiverse.
reminds me,
Yeah.
that the multiverse, that reminds me of a movie where he takes a pill and he just becomes this superhuman, right? And he starts, it feels literally like a movie, right? Like a sci-fi movie where you're like it's mind-boggling to me to understand that you can shift realities by aligning your gut, your heart, your mind, um, and that this has and you have the power to do that.
Yes.
And now because of you, I'm genuinely, I used to believe in it a bit, but now I'm genuinely starting to consider it and apply it, you know?
Right.
And uh, I don't know why I want to cover first the the process, how it looks. How does someone know We said energy, right? They feel energized when everything's aligned.
Yes.
They take the first step, and there they feel they're getting acclimated to their new reality. Now, how do they know they're getting closer to that stage where it's like your new updated version? I saw a podcast of you with Alex Ferrari on Next Level Soul,
Yes.
and he said how 4 years ago his friends come to him and say, "How did you shift your reality so much?" And you're this huge spiritual podcasters. So my question is, how can people also do that?
I would recommend think that's a great question, first of all, thank you. I would recommend starting with what you need, because talking about what you need, what you love, what you want, if you start with what you want, you can go off course more easily. It's like steering badly. So I'd start with what you need, which may sound like, well, people need to be clear on what they need. Need is very different than what you want. So you might think what you might say, I need $1 million, and maybe you do, but maybe that's not really the case. So if you focus on what you need, whatever that is, it may be a lesser amount of money perhaps, and it's genuine when you know I need $1,000 now. Then start with knowing that you need that and then relax. So it's really a process of knowing I need it and I have it. So it's trusting and having it's a leap of faith basically at that point. So I'd recommend practice first with people practice with programming a parking spot, simple things, finding money on the street, things that seem like, oh, I can do that. They believe that it is possible. That's the only difference here. Actually, everything's possible. So if you know, like, okay, I believe that that's possible, then try that on a day that you need it. Like, okay, I need some amount of money. I'm going to find it on the street. And maybe you will, or maybe it'll be in your wallet, or maybe someone will give it to you, or the next envelope you open, there it is. But it'll just be coming in. So if you open up the number of avenues that it can arrive and say, like, it can come in any way that it wants, but here's the amount that I need, and I have complete faith that this is going to happen. There's this beautiful thing that happens when we have faith, and I also like to leave things the time frame open, not rush things, especially if what I'm asking for is like tens of thousands of dollars, then I'll leave it open. Like, okay, no rush. Hopefully this year, but I'll leave it there, and that would come in a few months, perhaps. But anyway, so if you want to be flexible about how it comes in, when it comes in, but just have every time you start worrying, like, oh, I'm not sure that's going to happen, and I know I need it. Relax. So your practice then becomes one of I'm feeling tense. I can feel tension in my gut. So now relax that, let it go. I'll just feel love again. Sometimes it helps me to say out loud something soothing to myself. Just like, I'm not going to worry about this. I'll be just fine. And just hearing myself say that and my ears hear it, then I believe it. Like, oh, that sounds totally believable. And it's just yourself saying it to you. But that's a level of connecting with these levels of conscious agency. And for myself, I'm so familiar with these impossible things that if I'm about to do something quote unquote impossible, I can tell when it's going to happen because I'm just getting flooded with energy. And then I'll just know, like, oh, this is really, it's going to happen like imminently. Like, I'll be opening a locked door that I can see it's locked, and I'm just going to be able to open it anyway because I need to get in there. And that happened this year earlier. So anything like that, then I'll just feel it's this calm certainty and a flood of energy just coming through.
Mm.
And it happens because I'm in alignment with what I'm doing. So in other words, I'm not doing this as some sort of egoic trip. I'm not doing it to be a star on TV. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but I'm doing this genuinely because humanity needs this gift right now. It's super important, obviously. You can just look around at the planet and say, like, is it time for us to develop our quantum superpowers? I think, yeah, obviously. And I say that laughing because if you look at the news, it looks like everything is kind of falling apart. It's messed up.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go into that. So that's why it's time for us to recognize that we can have basically heaven on earth. We can have the absence of all the evils is basically what I'm talking about. That for me, it's a spiritual practice to not be doing anything to be better than anyone else or to be um, suffering from any of the distractions and temptations of the Buddhist torments and the so-called deadly sins. Those are going to pull people off course. So when I'm talking about quantum jumping, it's not to be greedy, not at all. It's not because you're envious of someone else's money. No, it's not any of that. It's only based on what we need, and then feeling what we love, and then recognizing that we can imagine it, and just bringing. I recommend starting bottoms up and going up this way because that's going to better guarantee success, especially for beginners. Because if you start with what you think you want, easier to mess up. Because your gut may not agree.
Mm. So what do you need at the gut level?
Yeah,
What do you love at the heart level?
yeah,
And what do you want at the mind level?
yeah. That's it. And then as you're, I'm feeling it as you're saying it. It's like this energy rising within me, and that's
Feel
very,
you.
yeah. That feeling that's that experience I'm talking about. And as you let that just flow, because it'll flow naturally. I feel joy, love, and just this light, this rising energy. And that's what it takes, just knowing that we're doing this. And to be in service to highest good is helpful. So if people feel like I don't deserve this, or because some people feel that way, then you can just change that in a heartbeat, in a moment, right now. You can say, from this moment forward, I'm in service to highest love. And even if you don't know what that means, and just say like it's good. There's no evil in it. It's just all good. It means you'll be part of the solution for the next person you meet. You'll be able to help plants and animals, help the earth, y just by being there and just by the light that you bring. And that can clear a lot.
I realized I spent from the age of 0 to 14 in the lower levels of consciousness, right? I was a big troublemaker. I used to create a lot of suffering for the people outside of me because I was stuck in the root level, right?
Yes.
But as I went through from the age of 14 to 18, I made so much other people suffer that I started also suffering myself because it was inevitable.
Mm.
And so I was like, fuck, I need to stop this, right? I need to find some peace, some joy, some bliss. I can't just keep living this way. And so I started my self development journey, which I believe there is no self development journey. It's all a spiritual development. It always leads to spiritual development because you realize that's the essence, right?
Yes.
And I had my first awakening and it felt exactly the way you said it. It started from below and it went above. And I had this beautiful experience where I felt like I was whole. I was already complete, right? There was nothing outside of me that could complete me.
Yes. Yeah, it's just the most amazing, it feels like magic when this harmonious alignment is occurring and flowing,
Like a
and
rebirth.
it's a rebirth, and it feels regenerative. So, it doesn't matter what time of day it is over here. It's like, yeah, it feels fantastic because it's in alignment with all of this. So, even if I start off feeling like I'm tired or whatever, I don't feel that way when I'm actively talking with someone about this, engaged in it. And that's the way it is for each of us, and probably for you on your journey too. Like, even if you felt like, "Well, I've been a bad person," you don't get stuck dwelling on that because you were young. And so it's possible to forgive that and realize that's for a reason. That was for me to look at that and experience it. I needed that. And now it's time to be able to share, like you did just now, with people who might be feeling like they're not worthy. That's not the case. We need everybody to be able to access this at their own speed, at their own time and pace, of course. But it should be available for everyone equally. And that's what you're doing. You're making these ideas available for everyone.
Um, First of all, thank you. Second of all, I recall you talked about Kundalini energy flowing, right? And I've had this experience where I was just lying on the sofa and I had gotten into spirituality pretty deeply for the past 4 or 5 years and meditating every day, etc., etc., like any spiritual person. and I just feel a rush of energy. It starts from below and a rush, energy, energy, energy. I was like, what's happening? I'm looking around and I feel it now. I feel the energy in my fingers. And I felt like I wasn't a physical body anymore. And I was a pure rush of energy. And I still have the journal. I journaled about it. And it felt like waves of love and energy flowing, flowing through my entire system. It was like every cell was vibrating to some extent. I couldn't explain it, but it happened, you know? How much can you relate to that? Because I know you had a similar experience, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah. Well, you're talking about it, and I'm feeling that activation of that kundalini right now as you're talking. I'm like, "Woo, yeah, I feel it." And when it first happened to me, it was extremely surprising, shocking, and because it felt like there was almost too much energy for me to be able to sleep the first night that it was just flowing. I'd close my eyes and things got brighter. Like, since when do I close my eyes and it gets brighter? How am I supposed to sleep? And the energy was just rushing through, and it was with waves, and it continued for many days. And I'd be waking up throughout the nights, when that was happening. I had an electronic clock with an analog digital display, so it would show me at exactly 1:11 and then 2:22 and then 3:33 because I'm waking up and I look at the clock, "What time is it?" And then I'm like, "Oh, this is crazy. How could it be that I could wake up and then it would be 4:44 and then 5:55?" Like, no way. Yes, because it's one thing during the day, but to be woken up through the night and wake up, look at the clock, like, "Oh my gosh." It's it was, basically showing me that there's an intelligence to this process that is so far beyond any smarts that I might think I have, and it has nothing to do with my IQ. It's an intelligence greater than I am and greater than all of us are, and it has to do with who we can be, who we're meant to be. It's really being called, I think, by my infinite eternal spirit, just like, "Okay, wake up now. It's time." It felt like a big awakening, like, "Wake up and be who you are meant to be. You are now activated." It's like you can't be a non-player character anymore. But I was happy as an NPC. Eh, more of that. Yeah, I wanted to be normal, but, like, I don't like this. Too late.
It's done. When it starts, you can't go back. You can't go back. It's what I realized is that also after that experience, those waves of Kundalini just moving up. The next day, like those repeating numbers you saw, I swear to my mother's life, it was like a piñata of 888s, 333, 222, 111s, everywhere. Like in like some people say, this is some woo woo. And I understand this concept because if you don't understand it, if you haven't experienced it, you're like, yeah, it's a woo woo, spiritual stuff, meditating under a tree, and it's bullshit. And some people have the right to feel that. And I used to feel that before
Yes.
until I started experiencing it in my life.
Yes, and our culture is so strongly telling us that this is woo-woo and it's garbage and that can't be, this has gotta be imaginary. Um, I I was feeling that too, but then I think because I had those feelings, I got another level of this. My guidance, my intuition would tell me, like, "Sit by the landline telephone and meditate." So I'd be doing that for, like, an hour, then the phone would ring, and I just get the intuition, "Okay, it's time, pick it up." And I'm like, "I never do that." Pick up the phone. And then I did this 3 times in the same exact way, and it was 3 kundalini emergencies, as if I was
Mhm.
the universal cosmic kundalini emergency hotline. It was basically people where they had an energy imbalance. I don't think that happens very often. And they would not be saying they wouldn't say hello. They just said, "I'm burning up. I think it's in my throat." And I'd be so deep in my meditation, I'd be like, "Yes, I see that." And like, "Let me help you with this." I'm laughing because I'd hang up and I'd think, "This is real." I'm sorry. But, it's like because they're even after everything I've been through, because our society is so repressive about this, it really insists that obviously people like you and I, we're just, fabricating, we're extrapolating, we're blowing things out of proportion, we're being a little bit too imaginative. but there's no way that I would have gotten 3 phone calls, and I do ask for things in 3. I said, "When I need a clear message, bring it to me in 3," so it does. It's like, "Here are 3 of these," like, "No way, 3 of these." So these 3 people don't spontaneously combust from Kundalini. I don't think that happens very often, but anyway, they just needed assistance, and it was for me to also mostly, I think it was for me to see, like, this is quite real, and I didn't even ask how they got my phone number. Obviously, when you're in the Kundalini, you get what you need. "Phone this number now." Like, "Okay." Phone the number, and meanwhile, on my end, meditate for an hour or 2. "Oh, yeah, I think you're ready. Here comes the phone call." Like, that's how intelligent this Kundalini energy is. So we're dealing with something at a level beyond anything that we're used to when we think of smart humans. You know, we think our inventors are really brilliant, like Elon Musk, he must be really smart. This is beyond any human level, way beyond, and we all have access to it. And to me, that's extremely exciting, and I think you know that too from your experience with that Kundalini. That means that no matter how limited each of us might feel, when we know that this is the time of great human awakening and this is what we're doing together collectively, that's exciting to me. That feels really promising and really like this can be a golden age.
You want to hear something crazy, Cynthia?
Yes.
The number I see most often is 333. It's literally the number I see every day, 5 to 7 times. Like, it's literally I'm like, okay, it's just normal now. It's like, it's like drinking water. Okay, 333. And as I look at the clock now, it's 111 actually.
Oh,
Um,
nice.
yeah. So it's such a liberating thing to know that we are not just what the mainstream believes, right? Just this physical body that needs to do this to achieve that, that cause an effect. It's much broader than that. And you have so much, the infinite intelligence you talked about, right? We are infinite beings with infinite intelligence beyond IQ. It's way beyond IQ.
So far beyond that. I suffered recently, just a few years ago, I got long haul COVID, and I think you may think, "Why would that happen to a quantum jumper?" I think precisely because well, several reasons. One, I recovered from it, which, some people say that doesn't happen, but you can recover with natural just foods and natural things. You don't need to take anything extreme or do anything, but, pharmaceutical. Let's enough about that. But the second thing is exactly what you're saying, because I didn't stop working with my clients. And unless you've had long haul COVID, it may not make sense what a big thing that is. What was happening was I could barely think at all. And I was not concerned because when I was working one on one with client coaching and mentoring, what am I doing? I'm directly connecting with my high self. And I was so familiar with that process that even though I was only awake 10 hours a day, I was falling down. I'm laughing, but it was miserable. But I kept saying, "How good can it get? How good can it get?" And then I got better and came out of it. But it was also a refreshing experience that even in the midst of all that, I could still function beautifully well and assist people remarkably just spot on. I usually do a blind reading before the session starts. That still worked fine, so I thought, "We're good to go." Which a lot of chutzpah, a lot of nerve.
Just by curiosity, first of all, by curiosity, what's a blind reading?
Oh, that means without knowing anything at all about the person. You might wonder, why is that important? Because we have like our left brain, which is very rational and analytical, and it thinks it knows everything and it's got labels for things. And then we've got our intuitive, receptive, it's like the yin and the yang again, the receptive listening, meditative right brain. So it means I'm turning off my do, and I'm being the be part. Like you said, be, do, have. So I do the be first. I turn off my left brain. I just switch it off like a light switch. Like, okay. And that would be the part of me like, who is this person? Do I know them? Like, never mind that. You're just going to do the reading right now on how they're feeling and what they need at this level of high self, middle self, low self, and what's their divine gift. And just write that down and get it all like on a one page and then email it to them before the session starts like usual. So for me, that's the blind read, and it's just a process I use to keep me on track during a reading. And as long as I've got that, I'm good. So and the person might receive it, and if they're in alignment to some degree with what I'm seeing, then they might be like, "Wow, that's perfect." If they're out of alignment, I'll see it, they may not agree with me, but then the head, the heart, and the gut are gonna be like 3 different people, and I don't usually get clients like that, but 25 years ago, I had a few, and then they'd argue with me, and I could see they're gonna argue with me because 'cause they're arguing within themselves.
Mm.
Which is interesting, yeah.
So when you say you turn off your you turn off your analytical mind
Yeah,
and you turn on the intuitive,
yeah.
that's the thing that people would love to know how to do. So what's your like process? Is it just by saying, okay, I'm letting go of the structural, logical mind? Because you're a physicist, so it's such a fascinating thing that you're able to do that um, since I know perhaps you don't identify with you identify as a quantum jumper or not anything. But what I'm saying here is how do you actually do this process of turning off your logical brain and turning on your intuitive mind?
Well, there are many ways to switch off that analytical, rational part of the mind. There's there's a great there are some people that have written books about it. Like Grant Cameron has a book, Contact Modalities, and he includes all sorts of things. Like you can drum. I don't do any of those things. Some people chant. You can dance. People go into trances, and so there's all that stuff. Personally, what I do is just a practice, a meditative practice, and I frequently slow my thoughts down to a stop and go into just a stillness. It's like a complete stillness. It's a stopping thoughts, as if you're cloud busting and you're looking at your thoughts as if they're clouds, and you just clear the sky till it's just completely clear, and just hold that. So that brings me to a state of receptivity where I'm capable um of then receiving information without judging it or trying to overly analyze it too soon, because that's what the rational analytical brain does. It wants to, prematurely think that it knows everything.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't want that happening.
You know, and how do you receive this information? You say you're receptive, and how do they come? Is it images? Is it a voice? Is it impressions?
It could be all of the above. Sometimes it can feel like a knowingness. I'll like sometimes use a prompt. It could just be like a regular dictionary is a good prompt. So I could just use my left hand to just flip through the pages, and then wherever my eyes first look on the page. And a dictionary is great. It's got all of the ideas, and I'll see a word, and so I can just write a list of words, and then when the list of words appears, they look like garbage, it looks like gibberish, and that's when it's like just like reading tea leaves or just like reading clouds or signs, or anything. It's like a divination method, so then that's when it helps to be in that, non-analytical, non-rational state of mind and just see into the depth of what these words what's the feeling behind them, and just to go into them like, and sometimes the feeling behind them isn't even the words at all, but they sort of open something, and I can see and like what they're showing me. Um, and this is no drugs required. This is not doing drugs. I know it may sound like, "Well, this sounds kinda trippy." Yeah, a little bit.
You know, you know what's fascinating about this, and it's crazy that we connect at this time. Yesterday, a friend of mine was like, she's called Leah, and she said, "There's this medium that's teaching people how to become mediums. So you want to try it?" And I was like, "Okay, let's try it." And so we did a full day of mediumship where we read the future, we read the past, where we received signs from spirit guides. And my whole life, I was a person that, out of fear, would try to control everything, right? Like, for example, when I would prepare for podcasts, 30 podcasts ago, I would literally spend 4 hours prepping the questions. If this word is here, doesn't, and it was just the fear, the analytical mind. But yesterday, I went into it as a beginner's mind, as a baby, literally. And I was like, okay, let me just try exactly what he said. And I came in with an open mind, which I think is a requirement for quantum jumping also.
Yeah.
And And he started explaining, and we went into groups of two, people I've never met in my entire life. Never met, know nothing about them. And the question was, can you read their past? For a radical, structural person that's logical, it would be like, what the how am I supposed to do that? There's no data, right? There's no data. But I was like, okay, I'm just gonna follow what he says. And so I put my arms like this, I close my eyes, and I say in French, I said it, but I'm translating it now in English. I'm connected to the past of X. And I just am receptive. And he said, be silent, be receptive of what you receive. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna try. And so I did it. And I told this woman that I see a uterus, that I see a small child, a small baby, a male baby, um, that I see that there's something being born. And these are just things that came to my mind.
Yes.
And when I finished saying that, she the she looks at me and she's like, 3 months ago, I had a une fausse couche, which means a false. How do you say in English? Um, when your baby prematurely passes away, or
Miscarriage.
miscarriage.
Yes.
And I was like, I didn't know what to do. I was, and now I tear up when I hear about this. But
Wow.
it's and it was the first time, and I was like, I teared up because I was like, what? And it was, yeah, it was a moment where, yeah.
That is the true humanity, the true spirit connection that we've been talking about, and it's what's behind the kundalini. Oh, I'm feeling so much energy right now. And, this is what we're living for, and this is our true capability to connect with one another directly like that, and genuinely to care and know that we can not only see what's happened for her, but care enough to make a difference. Sometimes that's all a person needs is to be seen and supported, and it makes such a huge difference. I'm sure it did for her to know that you cared and that you could connect with that.
Yeah, and I guess I guess it it was a moment where I was like, this has the potential to help. It's not just some woo thing, that a superpower that you have to just show off. No, it has a genuine power to help. And I guess this is what you do, right?
Yeah, this is what I do, and you're right, it's the super.
At a much bigger level, of course. Now
Well,
I'm a newbie at this.
right, newbies can be you're knocking it out of the park, it's a home run. It's like you're doing great. Yeah, it's beginner's luck because it's beginner's mind, because that's, to stay in beginner's mind is just to be the true master, so it's really about staying humble, staying, in service, and not trying to, to be something more than what's needed, more than, the what you really care about. Again, it's that same thing about the harmonious alignment, just lining everything up so that like, you're doing it because you need to know about mediumship, and you're in service with her, so you're feeling that true heart connection from one soul to another, and that is what I do, and so the kind of connection is possible. It feels to me just as good as being between lives again. If I said just as good as dead, it sounds terrible, but, like, what do you mean just as good as dead? But so I say just as good as between lives, because for me, that's what it feels like. It's so good between lives because there is that heart to heart connection. I remember it clearly. And so that's why this kind of work comes easily for me, even though it's not normal in our society. I'm hoping that at some point this can be more normal because it feels so good when you can just literally care about everybody around you and just genuinely love people from the inside for who they really are. So they don't have to do anything to prove anything, but you can see their soul, you can see their spirit. And that actually that's actually part of true observation in physics, even though physics doesn't respond. It doesn't talk about the soul or the spirit or what lights us up. It's not going to say any of that. I'm all about that. but but what it does say is that the observer is capable, like I said earlier, of totally influencing what is seen. And so when we are making choices by the questions that we ask. When we ask a question, that's our ultimate choice. And anytime, and now I'm quoting a physicist right now, the work of John Archibald Wheeler, who was a contemporary of Albert Einstein, and he brought us some amazing concepts like black holes and white holes and it from bit and a lot of ideas that we're still looking at. And the idea that I'm talking about now is called the participatory universe, where when we ask nature a question, we definitely get an answer. And that's this observer effect of having an observational influence. The choices that we make are the questions that we ask, and that's everything in the lives that we live. So that perhaps is the ultimate in quantum jumping, is just to start your day. I like to start the day by asking, how good can it get? How and then how good can I get? And so that just instantly revs things up. It puts that call out like, okay, universe, bring it on. How good can it get? Let's see.
Such a beautiful thing. It's amazing the fact that we have that power within us and that it's already there. It's just that sometimes you're just misaligned or blocked, and it's totally normal. We all like, I can relate so much to being misaligned and feeling heavy and feeling, but you can always come back to
Yes.
center, right? And it takes just a small meditation practice. It takes the awareness of what do I need at a gut level, what do I love at a heart level, what do I want at a mind level, and just taking a decision that's aligned with your higher self. And then just going from that place and actually having the beginner's mind is such a powerful thing in everything you do. I actually set myself a challenge, Cynthia, and I'm saying this perhaps because you could, I don't know why I felt this intuition that it could be a source of inspiration and something you could try.
Yeah.
Every week, I'm challenging myself to do something completely new.
Yes.
Like, 3 weeks ago, I just went basketball shooting. I never played basketball in my life, and I learned from a coach, just with a beginner's mind. Last week, I had a yoga session with an expert, and he taught me moves that, like, I was like, "Bro, is that even possible?" Like, I did handstands. If I show you the pictures, you're like, "Wow, this is crazy." Yesterday, I did a mediumship, and I've never done that before. And actually, the women inside were like a bit surprised because they were all women, and there's one man here, and they're like, "What is this guy doing? What is this guy doing here?" So I guess having the beginner's mind and asking those questions, these intentions,
Yes.
how good can it get? Wow, wow, wow.
Yes. Yeah, I love the idea of starting something new because then you're breaking free from old timelines. So you could people, if they feel like I can't do all that stuff. I don't have time because I work or whatever. Well, you can change your hairstyle. You can change, get a haircut, change the way you look. People might think, really? Yeah, that can be a big timeline influencer. um, change the way you talk. Change just be change something up. Just do something differently. Like, you don't have to be rude like I was, interrupt everybody. But maybe try that and see if anybody notices. It didn't really do any harm. That one still makes me laugh. Like, okay, now let's get started. Like, what? I've been so rude. No one noticed. Oh my gosh.
Uh,
Yeah.
it's amazing. It's amazing. Cynthia, what a conversation. One of my favorites. You're such a special soul and you radiate just love, joy. It's so evident that these are not things you just talk about, but these are things you live. And I guess I have huge respect for that. For the people watching, um, hit the subscribe button if you enjoyed this conversation. But most importantly, more important than that, I would love for you guys to know a bit more on how to contact and reach Cynthia for her services. I guess it's super fascinating for me. I would be interested also. So yeah, I want to leave you the space to do that.
Yes. My website is realityshifters.com. And I do have a newsletter. It goes out through Substack right now. I'm on YouTube, Cynthia Sue Larson, I think. Pretty sure. And I'm on Twitter and Facebook as well. So you can contact me via email. That's cynthia@realityshifters.com. And I'll get back to you as soon as I can. I do get a lot of email, but I'll get to it when I'm able to. And in the
I'm gonna
meantime,
add,
oh, yeah, keep asking how good can it get?
but it's such a pleasure, Cynthia. It was genuinely, genuinely such a powerful, transformative conversation. And yeah, thank you so, so, so much.
Oh, thank you. It's been a joy. Thanks so much.
And I would love to, if you're open to it, I usually like to stay in touch with guests. So I don't know if you have WhatsApp or Instagram or what do you preferably use. I would love to stay in contact.
Yeah, I've got Instagram. I don't usually do direct messages there, but you could try and I'll see if I can figure it out. I'm slow. Yeah, I don't have a cell phone. That's why.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, so I can reach you by email. Is that
Emails,
fine?
that's probably the best for me.
Okay.
Yeah,
Cynthia, you're a special, special soul, and I'm so grateful to have had this time with you.
I feel the same. Thank you and bless
Thank
you.
you.
Be there.
Thank you.
Take it.
Have a good sleep.
Okay.